You're listening to the Bleav in Giants podcast with two-time Super Bowl winner Carl Banks and the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa.
Welcome to another edition of Bleav in Giants presented by FanDuel. Bob Papa, two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. Hopefully everybody had a Merry Christmas and a great holiday. And Carl, was your Christmas good?
It was incredible. It was incredible. I got a chance to hang out with my grandson and it was just incredible, man. Great day for me.
Good for you. Yeah, it was a great time, and hopefully everybody had a fun time. Now it's back to work. Sunday, the Giants take on the Raiders in Las Vegas. Both teams haven't won a game since week 6. The Raiders beat Tennessee that weekend. The Giants on a Thursday night beat Philadelphia, and everybody was all gaga about the team and the possibilities. And Carl, they lost 10 in a row last year and won on week 17. They have a 9-game losing streak this year. I don't have the research. NFL Network research department didn't research this, probably because it was a holiday week. I want to know when the last time a team had a 10-game losing streak and a 9-game losing streak in back-to-back seasons, because what we're seeing is unprecedented right now.
Yeah, it's so depressing to see what's going on, and just it's just tough. And I feel for Giants fans, and they're so scarred that they have gone down so many different rabbit holes and scenarios. And, I can't blame them for looking forward to the draft because that's all they have to look forward to. But we are dealing with a lot of crazy narratives out there that has got these fans and down a rabbit hole and really convinced that certain things should happen, and they're not convinced that their quarterback is any good, and throwing out crazy stats. And it's just it's unfortunate. It's not sad. It's unfortunate for a fan base that this is what they have, and this is what the team has given them, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, when you're pinning your hopes to what Big Blue VCR is going to post each week from some random season for whoever the Giants are playing that week, and you see Giants Stadium all excited and all this stuff, and the team is winning, and it's just bizarro world. But hey, look, they're playing a Raiders team that is dead last offensively in just about every category. The Raiders, in their efforts to, I believe, try to give themselves the best chance to have the number 1 overall pick, have placed Brock Bowers on injured reserve. Bowers did get hurt in week 1, played through it, and then missed a whole bunch of games in October, came back. He's been playing. He's a number away. He was 107 yards away from matching or breaking Mike Ditka's record for most receiving yards by a tight end in the first 2 seasons. But they shut him down. They shut down starting safety Jeremy Chin. He's down. So it looks like the Raiders are trying to position themselves to give themselves the best chance to get the number 1 overall pick, taking their best weapon that they have offensively off the board.
But Bob, Carl says that teams don't tank.
Players don't tank.
Yeah.
Organizations
decisions above players' heads. And I don't respect that that philosophy, but these guys are in the business of whatever they're in the business of. So they'll see. Like, everybody wants the number 1 pick if you're close to it. I'm sure the fans on this side of the country are screaming, we need to lose to get the number 1 pick. There's no guarantee with the number 1 pick. You go out and you play hard. and see what happens. They're in need of a quarterback. I'm not sure they are 100% in love with Geno Smith the way they were when they got him from Seattle, because he had come off, a couple really good seasons in Seattle and thought they were going to get that. But, just like every other team, quarterbacks need supporting cast. They need offensive linemen. They need running backs and wide receivers. So, Geno can still sling it, but maybe they're thinking about going in a different direction.
Well, I mean,
a quarterback.
Carl, I don't with the ownership with Mark Davis and whatever influence Brady has there, and Chip Kelly got fired as the offensive coordinator during the season. I wouldn't be shocked if Pete Carroll's one and done with the Raiders. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Right? You remember when Doug Peterson pulled Jalen Hurts his rookie year, that game against the Giants, to improve their draft position. Well, he wasn't even around to make the draft pick because he got fired.
Yeah.
So, crazy things happen in this league. Look, the Giants players that are stepping on the field, Brian Burns is going to try to win the game.
Yeah.
Jaxson Dart's going to try to win the game. Jermaine Eluemenor, like everybody who puts a uniform on and plays in the game. And I think we got a good whiff of that on Christmas. The Minnesota Vikings, with nothing to play for, eliminated. Max Brosmer is their quarterback.
Threw for 50 yards.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Harrison Smith's last home game. He balled out for Minnesota, and they knocked Detroit out of the playoffs. We saw on Christmas night, Kansas City, they've been to the playoffs every year since Mahomes has been there. It was probably Kelsey's last home game because they play on the road next week. They balled out. I mean, they did everything they could to hurt Denver's chances. So the players play when they're on the field. And I would expect that the Giants are going to go out and play very hard in this football game on Sunday.
Yeah, I think when you put competitive players out there, and you can tell, that these guys. You look at yesterday's game. There was basically a bunch of nothing bowls. Teams with nothing to play for. Washington, Dallas. These guys going out there, they're playing hard, and the best players still want to be the best players in bad games too. And we can look at last week, the Giants lost defensively. There's a lot of good performances out there. Quietly, Dexter Lawrence has started to stack a few very, very strong performances. Andrew Phillips has quietly started to stack some good performances. You see what Abdul Carter is doing. Some of these, and that's why you play the schedule that you play. It's always a chance to get better the next week. And I like, Tyler Nubin is starting to stack better performances, but it is why you play the game. It's why they pay you as a professional to play 17 games, to try to get better each week if you're healthy. And, my hat's off to Dexter because last week was probably one of his more dominant games, even though he didn't stat a sack. But he was as disruptive as I've seen him, and it's been the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some impact on the games. I'm not as glossy about his consistent impact on games. It's in bursts. But everybody's got. Everybody gets attached to a record, right? I mean, Mike Kafka. Probably not going to get the job moving forward. He's a guy that has head coach aspirations. He's interviewed well in the past. He doesn't want to go into wherever he's going to interview for a job, whether it's this year or next year. or 2 years from now to become a head coach, he doesn't want 0 and whatever on his record.
Right.
Jaxson Dart, quarterbacks are always, rightfully or wrongfully, it's the ultimate team game, but we attach records to quarterbacks. Jaxson Dart is 2-8 as a starter right now. He desperately wants to finish this year and be 4-8 as a starter. Like, this is personal stuff, right? I mean, so there's a lot of things. Plus, there's guys that realize that with the change in the coaching staff, that there are going to be changes within the roster, because whoever is going to come in is going to say, well, you guys lost 10 games in 2024 in a row, and you lost 9, 10, 11 straight games to end the 25 season. You're not necessary.
We ain't running it back with this.
Correct. So the guys are trying to put stuff on tape that get them jobs next year somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. This narrative that Jaxson Dart has regressed since the firing of Brian Daboll is another silly narrative, with the exception, and you can correct me if I'm wrong if you have the stats in front of you, but I did a quick kind of perusal of his splits. With the exception of Minnesota, his numbers are relatively the same. Some of the amount of passes he gets are a little higher in some games than others, but nothing has really changed other than that Minnesota game. And I'm just like, you guys, and again, look, folks, y'all got nothing else to do because this season is a wash. But when you start to really take your rookie quarterback, who is an NFL quarterback, and you want to kind of diminish him just to justify looking at, playing fantasy football with the kid out of Indiana, which you don't know what he's going to do. Remember, the kid in Minnesota hasn't played a full year yet, and he's going into his third season. Ward, who was by all accounts the best quarterback coming out of the draft, nobody's talking about him. He's on a bad team, but he's not doing a lot either. Your quarterback is front and center. He's learning, he's performing, he's executing, and you're saying let's throw him away and start over because he's not accurate on his deep ball. And let me pull up this stat for you, Carl. And balls over 20 yards, he's X amount. Like, how many of those were drops? Yeah, how many of those? So the stats are the stats, and the stats don't lie, but they don't tell you the why or the complete story. If you take the amount of drops, Wandale, Theo, Jalen Hyatt in his route running, Slayton, the game in New Orleans alone would kill that percentage. They had so many of those big drops, and I'm just like, you guys will throw a stat out there as if you didn't see the game or you're not critical in your thought process about why some of these things go. And it's easy, it's convenient to throw a stat out there, but then you think about, well, yeah, he had a lot of drops. He's had a lot of drops this year, and a lot of them are on deep balls. And then you say to yourself, okay, well then he runs around too much. Well, a lot of quarterbacks run around too much. But my point is, folks, you're either riding with Dart or you're not, but the justification for looking at somebody who hasn't proven themselves, or the comp of, hey, well, Drake May is a Super Bowl contender. Drake May wasn't great his rookie year either, even though did they put him in the Pro Bowl his rookie season?
No, he didn't make the Pro Bowl.
No, second year. This year, he's in the Pro Bowl. He won 3 games his rookie year. He wasn't spectacular either. So get the right coaching, and hopefully they put a great system in place. He'll be fine. Mike Kafka was the offensive coordinator when Daboll was here too. So with the exception of Minnesota, there's just not much difference. in how he's playing or how they're calling a game for him.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they, you and I talked about this already. I don't want to revisit it. Biz did a big thing on his Bleav podcast. They didn't do him any favors last week. Okay, the way they called the game, receivers either not making sight adjustments on pressures, and him having 3 verticals, getting pressure, and where you're going to throw the ball.
Check down.
No check downs, any of that stuff. So, and we don't know. I mean, usually that stuff is baked into a call. So I'm going on a lot of mental errors. Look, the end of the Washington game, he had some chances and there was miscommunications or whatever. That's part of a rookie quarterback. But I will tell you this, and our producer, Lindsay, could probably dial this up. Not that we need her to, but I just know from working the league and doing my show on Sirius and having contacts around the league, this was the same narrative in Chicago last year about Caleb Williams. Like, they might have really missed on this one. He's just too laissez-faire. He keeps making the same mistake, to the point where in training camp, the new head coach, Ben Johnson, admonished him publicly about his work ethic, his attention to detail, and things that he must improve upon. And we're seeing a maturation of a quarterback right now who has a team into the postseason, and the narrative in Chicago has completely changed. So, like, I don't know where this wildfire started, but to trade Jaxson,
a New York radio host who had nothing else to do but just to throw it out there and stand on it, who's it's the funniest thing, and they said it with conviction and it caught fire. But here's the other thing too, folks, if you can, please spare me with the list of players that the Giants can get in a trade haul, unless you know and have seen those players play. If you're not Nick Filato or Dan Schneider, who spend a lot of time evaluating college kids, don't find somebody's list and say, here, we could get these guys. Here's my scenario. Unless you can tell me about those guys, unless you've actually watched those players play, you have no idea. No idea. And it's fun. You could do it with your friends, but it just doesn't make sense to me to show it to me, because I haven't seen them play, and I am not going to offer much in terms of whether or not they're good selections or not. And if you can't justify it, you're not offering me much of an education on it either.
Yeah, like, listen, in a perfect world, the Giants get the number 1 overall pick, and whoever's making the decisions down the road, when it comes time, you will be able to net a lot of draft capital. You will be able to trade out of that pick. But to think that you can predict who they could get, because other than going first, you're at the mercy of anybody who picks ahead of you, and that includes trades. So I don't really pay attention to the college game all that much.
I don't either.
Really looked at no. And I'll do some prep, but I'm not really I let the experts handle that.
Yeah.
As far as college prospects, because everybody universally said that Marvin Harrison Jr. was by far the best receiver in that draft class. And I think as these guys have embarked upon their pro career, I'm not really sure if he was the best receiver in that draft class. He went first off the board, but it's hard to project how good these guys may or may not be when they come into the league. And again, it depends on who you're going to, who your quarterback is, who your coach is, what's the stability of your organization, that all factor into this stuff.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Is quarterbacks, they're always another component to a player's success. Like, how's an offensive line for a quarterback? Is he in a stable situation? Chances are, if you're a high pick, you go into a bad situation that you have to try to make better. And hopefully that front office has put some other pieces around so that you at least get a head start on things, or else you're going to be, you're going to grow as the team grows. But there's no disputing Harrison can play the game, but he had Kyler Murray, who's been in and out of the lineup. Now he's completely out of the lineup. And, he's had some really good games and he's had some rookie-looking games. So, and then I guess the last thing I have in terms of, fan interaction with me is this thing about I like Jermaine Eluemenor, but not for the money he's going to be asking. And Jermaine Eluemenor is going to get what the market will pay him. And unless you want to have a Xavier McKinney, a Julian Love, then you look at what the market is, because he's going to get it wherever he goes. He's a top tackle in the league now. And if you look around the league at all the teams that need tackles and all the teams that are not parting ways with their tackles, why would you want him $10 million less than he could get on an open market from any other team? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then you guys will complain, well, we let him go and we should have just paid him what he was worth. Yeah, look, these players are going to get what the market bears, and the market for tackles is extremely high. Everybody wants them. There are not a lot of good ones around the league. And, if you want the next tier, then you take the guy that got, I don't know if he got benched, but he got replaced in Indianapolis, but he's not Jermaine Eluemenor. But they're all going to make money. There are too many teams in this league that are looking for offensive linemen, especially tackles. He has proven to be consistent, whether you like him or not. He's one of the better offensive tackles in the league. No, he's not Andrew Thomas, but he's going to get a paycheck, and he will have earned the money that he's going to get. I would highly recommend that the Giants keep him. I would also highly recommend that they keep their offensive line coach too.
Yeah, I mean, again, the theater of the unknown, like, we have no idea who necessarily is going to be making these decisions, right?
Right.
Right now, it appears that it's Joe Shane, but, as we saw last year with the situation in Tampa, things can change rapidly.
Sure.
So, it's really a theater of the unknown. And I'm interested in this game. I'll tell you why. The Raiders are middle of the pack defensively. They're 15th overall. They're 17th against the run. They're 14th or 17th against the pass. 17th. They give up about 24 points per game. This is something that you've harped upon the last couple of years. The offensive line cannot be Jenga, where when Andrew Thomas gets removed. Now, it would be silly for Andrew Thomas to try to fight through his hamstring injury and play this weekend. Like, I don't want to see Andrew Thomas play the rest of the season, quite honestly. Mm-hmm. So now it becomes Marcus Bowe, who we were excited about in training camp and what we saw out of him, whether he's lining up at left tackle, whether he's lining up at right tackle, and Eluemenor's. I don't know what they're going to do configuration-wise. But I don't know. I feel pretty confident that we're not going to see Andrew Thomas, nor should we. Now, Max Crosby lines up everywhere. I want to see this team, and this is going to be an interesting thing, Carl, because I want to see this team be able to function as an offensive line without Andrew Thomas to prove to me that it is not a Jenga game, and that when Andrew Thomas is in, all is well. When Andrew Thomas is out, all hell breaks loose. Because I know the Chargers don't block great, and I know that Justin Herbert's been taking a lot of hits, but my Lord, the team is in the playoffs, and they've lost not one but two Pro Bowl tackles.
Yeah.
And there are other teams that have offensive line injuries that have been able to function. Philadelphia has won the division with an offensive line that's been in disarray all season long. And there are a list of other teams that have dealt with offensive line issues that are still winning games. I don't want to see a bad 2023 or 2024 without Andrew Thomas playing performance on Sunday against the Raiders.
Yeah, and this is why you brought Marcus Bowe in. We drafted him. He had an impressive camp. He's had some time on the field, game time on the field. This is the next step. So if he's in there, Yeah, you're going to give him some help, but you do want to see him go up against a Max Crosby, one of the game's most elite players. He practiced well against the Thibodeaus and the Brian Burns and the Abdul Carters. Now it's against real competition. You're away from home cooking. Throw him out there. I bet you he competes. He's not going to be perfect. Nobody is perfect against Max Crosby, but you want to see him go out there and compete. You don't want to see the offensive line, like you say, in total disarray where it's just falling apart and your quarterback's getting killed.
Yeah, I saw some fan, I don't know, I guess he was defending Dart and killing Kafka and the play calling or whatever about last week's performance. And a couple people actually said, well, he was playing behind a decimated offensive line. Whoa. They were missing Runyon because his wife gave birth. He's not an all-pro. He's not a Pro Bowl player. He's a good player on an offensive line. And then Andrew Thomas got hurt. During this long 9-game losing streak, how many games have the Giants lost against teams that were missing one or two starters on the offensive line or got hurt or got lost even more guys during the game? I don't want to. The Giants' offensive line was not decimated last week. The Giants' thought process on how they were going to execute a passing game was decimated last week in what they were doing. But put it this way, missing Runyon and having Andrew Thomas get hurt, yes, it's important, but let's not talk about it's catastrophic, because in this 9-game losing streak, they've gone against teams that were literally looking for guys to play, and they functioned. So don't give me that.
Well, we're going to see. This is a game that, by all accounts, the Giants it's a weight class game, but the Giants should be should be in a better situation to win this game, considering who's available for the Giants and who's not available for the Raiders. This is one I want to see them win. I want them to feel what it's like to win again. Everybody has their own motivations outside of those who are playing, but for those players, I'd like to see them win.
Carl, just in wrapping up here, because no Bowers. We know Geno Smith can light it up, but he's not playing great. 18 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. They don't really have great weapons at the wide receiver. Their whole passing game centers around the tight ends. Mayer, the former Notre Damer, and Bowers is out. But why don't you share with our audience, because you did a nice film breakdown of the rookie Ashton Genty, who was taken with the 6th overall pick. He's got 828 yards rushing. He's got 50 catches out of the backfield. Just talk about him and what has made him such a good player, considering the fact that he's playing on a team that's not very good.
So Ashton Genty, for you folks who have not studied him well, and this is close to what you used to see from Ezekiel Elliott as you're going to get in today's game. Good vision, good speed, good explosiveness, but he's the guy when you tackle, he always goes forward. Good contact balance. And, you can look at him and be like, he doesn't have breakaway speed, but he's fast enough. He's got great vision, good lateral movement, but he plays with power and speed. Instead of speed and power, he's a power and speed guy who, upon contact, he always falls forward. But if you're out of position, you'll see just how fast he is. It's deceivingly fast and deceivingly quick, because he's through the hole. If you overrun it or you're late, you're not going to get to him. because he's deceptively fast. But he's an explosive kid, but not the breakaway explosive that you see from some of the backs. But my comp for him is Ezekiel Elliott.
That's a really great comparison with the kind of runner that he is. So Giants will have to deal with him. And listen, Stone Forsythe, who, if you Giant fans remember, he was part of the Giants preseason training camp roster. He is now their starting left tackle. So
Okay.
I want to see Abdul Carter. I want to see Brian Burns. I want to see Chauncey Golston, who looked like the Chauncey Golston that I thought the Giants were signing last week. I know he's had a lot of neck injuries and stuff like that, and Charlie Bullen has done a better job of figuring out how to utilize him. I was so excited when the Giants signed Chauncey Golston and Roy Robertson Harris as depth rotation guys.
Sure.
And it feels like Shane Bowen never understood how to use Chauncey Golston. And it feels like last week, with him being healthy, we saw what Chauncey Golston can do as a rotational player. He's not a Pro Bowl player, but he's a good NFL player who had good games against the Giants in the past and other NFC East teams. So have at it. Another get-right game, right?
Who's going to get right, though? Who's going to get right?
Well, hopefully the Giants defense, which is 29th, gets right against the 32nd ranked offense, 32nd in the run, 29th in the pass. They only score 14.5 points per game offensively. Let's get right on this game against their offense.
Yeah, it'd be a great feeling. But we shall see. I think the key players for the Giants are emerging, better late than never, like a guy like Chauncey Golston. Roy Robinson Harris has been good. I'd like to continue to see Darius Alexander continue to get better, but Abdul Carter is coming into his own. And this is normally the arc sometimes for rookies, right? We knew that at some point the almost sacks would turn into sacks and hits on the quarterback. And you're starting to see that. And yes, it's because Charlie Bullen has given him a plan. He is working with Charlie on that plan. And, he's involved in a lot of different actions, 2-man, 3-man actions where they can move him around. And you can see just how effective he is. You saw yesterday with Detroit what they did with their great pass rusher, and they start moving him over centers. That's the way you utilize these kids when you got mismatches that they can exploit, right? These aren't straight line players. Abdul Carter is great laterally, he's great vertically, and he's got super cat quickness. So you just move him around, and then you put him in actions, not just one-on-one. You put him in a 2-man action, a 3-man action, just so that you can really exploit it. And I just like this. I like what they're doing with him, but I also like the fact that Brian Burns is in the action. I love the fact that Dexter Lawrence is in the action. When I say the action, folks, it's like pass rush games and stunts. And, you start to see those 3 guys breaking loose. And that's what I had envisioned in training camp, where teams have got to pick their poison. But if you make it easy, they can do that. But if you start to put 2- and 3-man actions in play, somebody's breaking free and the quarterback's getting hit. And that's what we saw last week and the week before.
Kudos to our producer, Lindsay. I mentioned that both teams come in with a 9-game losing streak. The Giants lost 10 in a row last year. They've lost 9 in a row this year. So I asked the question, has a team ever had 2 straight seasons with 10-game losing streaks? And Lindsay did a little work, and at least as far as she can check, the Raiders lost 10 straight last year, and they're on the verge of potentially losing 10 straight this year. The Giants lost 10 straight last year. They're on the verge of losing. According to Lindsay's research, no team, at least in the Super Bowl era, has had a 10-game losing streak in back-to-back seasons. So one of these 2 teams is going to
somebody's about to have it
with NFL history, and not the history you want to have. Good job, Lindsay.
It's not.
Happy New Year to all. We want to thank our friends at FanDuel. We'll be actually, it's not Happy New Year because we're going to be back on Monday to recap
on
this
Monday.
thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll wish everybody a Happy New Year. How do we like to end it, Carl?
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Bleav in Giants.